Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from you. I would like to talk about emptiness and hollowness because I had an episode where it was rearing its head. But due to my lifestyle choices, due to the practices, I can avoid it and sidestep it and do a complete 180 from it in a way that I really needed years ago. But it's not about regret or wishing to go back or anything, because it's that thing that people talk about where, hey man, I when you keep growing and evolving and learning, a lot of times people say what is growth, or they don't know how to define growth. Let's talk about one big element of growth, and that's like legit learning lessons. So many instances now when people close to me, my loved ones, have some kind of really bad experience, I sincerely and genuinely ask them, what did you learn? And it's not even for the sake of it. It's not to sound cool or to come off a certain way. It's a genuine curiosity of mine, because that is what it's all about. If we're not learning, then what are we doing? That's why you see so much chaos and toxicity. How many people do you know in your life? How many people have you met throughout your life who they're toxic as hell, unaware as hell? And would you not say that it's fair to say one of the biggest common denominators with these people is that they're not trying to learn from their mistakes. They're not trying to learn from their toxicity, from the negativity that they've distributed to you and to other people and to themselves even. And although a lot of times there are real victims, these same people, it's unfortunate, the term victim is used by those who don't want to act like there's actual victims. But in that same respect, people do victimize themselves that are toxic as hell, where the people that are actual victims often fight against all of the obstacles and the barriers in their life. They're trying to learn, how can I become well adjusted to existence? How can I become well adjusted to reality, considering that I've been traumatized, considering that I've been harmed and damaged, and that there's been destruction in my life, that I've sabotaged things in my life. They try to grow and evolve and become better, even though they're an actual victim. And then you got the people that, it's so ironic, it's paradoxical, it's a freaking oxymoron. They're victimizing other people constantly with their toxic ass stuff, and then you talk to them and then they clearly are singing the song of victimhood. And it's very interesting how all that works. But the lessons of it all, man, if we're not learning, bruh, it's like, it's just no point. You gotta learn. You have to learn. And I love it because recently, man, I rebounded so hard from a tailspin I was going in. At the age of 32, when I was in the tailspin that happened recently to me, that tailspin would have sent me all the way down here. Instead, the tailspin was like this. It was like going here, here, here. And I was like, nope. And it's because of lifestyle choices. It's because of learning how to get out of it that I was able to rebound it from it so much more quickly. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, oh my goodness, I'm grateful. And it's because of all of the growth, all of the lessons, all of the habits, all of the lifestyle choices. And then that goes back to this notion of even happiness, even and whatnot. So we're going to say this. When I was in the tailspin, I'm going to talk about this. When I was in the tailspin, I got a glimpse again how it feels to be normal. Because I don't think normally, I don't feel normally, but by my default, I am relatively normal. By my default, my lack of normalcy is mostly due to my belief system, my value system, my perception, how I shape it and continue to shape it. Like a bit like, join my cult. I have like a cult mindedness, like cult without the negativity of me trying to make you drink some kind of Kool-Aid. And I'd love for you to come join my cult. But I think that feature of the mind where you can, belief department, you got the grief department, the happiness department, you have the love department. There's a belief department in one's mind. And in that belief department, we tend to waste it. We waste it with, I believe in God, and then I'll just move on. I believe in this, and I just move on. I believe in this, and no, my belief completely rewired me to make the choices that I made. And what was my point on that? I'm not just trying to rant about how awesome I am, uh, because I'm not. I am an aspiring awesome. I wanted to jokingly say I am awesome. My point about that was I got a glimpse of how it feels to be normal. And when I was in my normal state, in my mind was I was having all these normal thoughts. I guess let me try to give you an example of what a normal thought is. It's just like being just I would worldly mindedness, that would I speak against all the time, being fixated on nonsense for moments at a time, looking at stuff that has nothing to do with enlivening or existence in actuality, just nonsense, thinking about nonsense, looking at nonsense, listening to nonsense. And that makes you have this craving, this appetite for nonsensical fulfillments. You start to think, maybe if I do this, or maybe if I buy this or buy that, maybe if I just do this or do that. When I know, though, that the thing that's kept me out that tailspin, I know for a fact the basics of getting out of a tailspin are sitting in silence. It's observing your thoughts and not feeling identical to your thoughts, not allowing yourself to perceive and interpret your thoughts as you. Like I looked at, like I adjusted my position in my mental seat, in my mental space. I adjusted it back to observing it, and it put a smile on my face. I was like, oh, right, thank God. This sounds so esoteric, because it is esoteric, because it's not normal. But that helped me so much. But that's because of the practices I've engaged in all my life, man. I can't stress enough that spiritual pursuit, which is a kind of an emphasis on mindfulness, an emphasis on your internal world. This is the world. Well, everything that you see on these apps is all about people doing worldly stuff. That's the vast majority of it. Not all of it is negative. There's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of nonsense. But ultimately, it's about everything outside of yourself. And you can even argue, is a word that's overused a lot because everybody thinks everyone's a narcissist. And I'm not saying that narcissism isn't prevalent, but one, key component in narcissism is kind of self-absorption, right? And I'm not talking about a self-absorption where you're inside of yourself, only thinking of yourself in some kind of way where the classical narcissist tends to think about themselves in a way where their only interest is to serve themselves in a more gluttonous, mindless way. It has nothing to do with, like, I like being a surplus because then I can better help those around me. That's a major part. Like I like being in a state of richness and eternal surplus because when I interact with people, I can feel how I'm enriching them. And that gets me off. I get off on helping people feel much more enriched, much more full. And that makes me feel very good because I know that there's a butterfly effect. I know that there's a chain reaction of it all. Like, they call that, look good, feel good, talk good, feel good, talk good, they feel good. It's a reciprocation. And then we go out to the world and everybody's benefited. And I suppose that's a major concern of mine due to how naturally sensitive I am. This is what's not normal about me, I suppose. I am super sensitive without me wanting to be. I'm super empathetic without me wanting to be. So I suppose what's getting off is my empathy. The same way, if you're in front of me telling me your woes, how my empathy is like activated in a way where I'm at your level at that moment. I'm in a blue state while I listen to you. My empathy, I suppose, is in a golden state. The golden empathy, the much sought after golden state of empathy. And this is all again, I'm speaking in a very self-centered way in the sense that I'm speaking how I interpret the world, how I see things. And I know, again, this may be, for a lot of people, very unfamiliar to the two people watching this. But, man, normal sucks, though. I guess, I'm all over the place. So let me just jump to this. Normal sucks. And normal is what with a lot of religious scriptures speak against. Normal, worldliness, superficiality, being materialistic, being concerned with just like stuff and things. And what's so much better is a focus on being present being present-minded, and treating yourself right despite. And that's another thing I'm gonna rant on. Man, I'm so glad that I've developed that definition of what it means to love yourself. Because when I am, again, another factor, when I'm in my tailspin, the times that it happens, when I'm like, when it's going down inside, I'm not confused as to what I need to do due to my belief as to what it means to love myself. We can say I love you to ourselves, but like, what does that mean? And for me, the broken down meaning of that is to treat myself right despite. And then you can say, so what does it even mean to treat yourself right despite? What does right mean? Well, right for me means to ensure that I'm getting my sleep, that I'm getting my nourishment, that I'm getting my physical activity, and that I'm engaging in healthy conversations. That all sounds so simple. It could all be so simple. It's not that simple though. To get your sleep, we kid ourselves. We try to rationalize that, like, oh, you know, 7 is fine, 6 hours is fine, but it's never fine. I tried to do that so many times recently. I'm just like, oh, it'll be all right. I'll be all right. So I'm in a circumstance where I feel as though, like, I don't need to get that much sleep, but it always bites me in the ass. And then even with my nourishment, I've been overdoing it with eating these gluten-free cookies from this place called Milk Mustache. And I'm like ordering, they probably think I'm like a 400-pound person. I'm ordering like 12 cookies every week, and I'm devouring them within days. And I started to notice that it was weakening me, that I was developing, fat is not an issue for me, but when I'm developing fat to where now I see a decrease in my athletic performance, when I can tell my energy levels are taking a hit, when I can tell that my physicality is taking a hit, now I have to begin to address it and be like, all right, I can't mess with that no more. And it's affecting my mental health too. All that excess sugar, it's a calorie bomb. I'm eating just a mountain of sugar, and then I'm going through the withdrawals. I gotta admit, these gluten-free cookies, they're beautiful, but I have to take it back. That nourishment, the physical activity, I wasn't doing nothing. I'm now doing a job. I used to love doing manual labor. Now I'm not doing that. Now my job is mental labor. And I'm quite frankly sitting my ass all day. And so I had to be like, dude, you're not engaging in physicality. You know? So these are the truths. This is the only thing I had. It was even close to a pillar was healthy conversations. But my argument is, if you don't have sleep, if you don't have nourishment, if you don't have physical activity, if you don't have healthy conversations, if all 4 of them ain't on lock, if they're not all 4 ain't on lock, then you can't be confused. You cannot be righteous about how you're all off. You can't act like you don't know why if those 4 things are solid. And that's the right. Treating myself right is getting those 4 things in check and getting those 4 things solid. And then what's the despite? The despite is do those 4 things, treat myself right despite my failure to do them, despite making a stupid decision here, despite something dumb and toxic coming out of my mouth, being inconsiderate, being a fool, making some kind of like social misstep or just misstep in general. I love being hard on myself. I'm a huge fan of being hard on myself. I think more people need to do it. I think this world would be way better if people were way harder on themselves. I'm talking everybody. But I will give myself grace and acknowledge that I even if I'm hard on myself, I will give myself the permission, and I will give myself the motivation and the inspiration to engage in those 4 pillars, because the point of being hard on myself is not for me to be down in the dumps and to be non-functional and to be non-contributive and to just like look at myself in a negative way. That's not the point of being hard on myself. The whole point of being hard on myself is so that I can get on track. If it's not getting me on track, then being hard on myself is pointless. And so, but that it is what it is, man. Treat myself right despite. And I'm such a fan of the lifestyle choices and the lifestyle practices and how much that matters and how much that helps. And there's a lot of noise going on right now, as always. And there always will be noise. But I hope that me just articulating and communicating my experiences, all I ever hope is that it might help somebody, because I'm always helped by hearing somebody's story and somebody's experiences. And I remember I was in some dark times many years ago, and people's experiences were very helpful, and people's stories and people's lessons. So, bless you.